The illusion of isolation arises from the belief that to be alone is to be separated, to be distanced from the world, to be absent from the connection we so deeply crave. This belief rests on a fundamental misunderstanding of our nature. We are not separate from one another, nor from the world around us, despite what our senses and society may tell us. We are all part of a vast, interconnected web woven together by forces that transcend the boundaries of our individual selves. When we think of a woman with no friends, we often imagine her as an isolated figure, disconnected from the warmth and companionship that others experience. Yet this is simply an illusion. To be physically alone does not equate to being emotionally or spiritually disconnected. The absence of human companionship does not sever the ties that bind us to the greater fabric of existence. The truth is that isolation is not a state of being, but a state of perception. We may feel alone in a crowded room or lonely despite having numerous friends, because we are searching for connection in places where it cannot be found. The deeper connection we seek, the one that nourishes the soul, is not found in the company of others, but in the profound recognition of our own unity with the universe. In this light, the notion of a woman with no friends becomes not a tragedy, but an opportunity to realize that true connection lies within. It is not dependent on another person, but on the ability to attune oneself to the present moment, to the rhythm of life, to the breath that flows in and out, and to the vastness of the self that exists beyond the mind's limited perspective. To be alone is not to be cut off, but to experience the full range of one's own being without distraction. In solitude, we encounter ourselves in ways that no external relationship can mirror. We come face to face with our desires, our fears, our dreams, and our truths. In this encounter, we often find the connection we sought elsewhere already present within. The illusion of isolation dissolves when we understand that our essence is shared with everything around us. When we touch the deeper layers of existence, we realize that we are never truly alone. We are always in the company of the eternal, the vastness of nature, and the quiet hum of life that is constantly unfolding. Isolation, then, is not the absence of connection, but the misunderstanding of what connection truly is. The journey inward is a path that is often overlooked in a world that prioritizes external validation and external connection. We are taught to look outward for meaning, for purpose, for relationships. Yet the truest journey we can embark upon is the one that leads us within ourselves to the uncharted territories of our own consciousness and soul. This journey does not require us to seek or chase after anything. It is an unfolding of what is already present, waiting to be discovered. When a woman finds herself without the distraction of friendships or the roles that society expects her to play, she may come to a profound realization that her sense of self does not depend on others. In the absence of external noise, there is a space created for her to look within, to explore the inner dimensions of her being. It is a space where the mind can quiet, where the constant chatter of expectations and desires can fade, and where she can connect with the essence of who she truly is. This inward journey is not one of loneliness, but of deep self-discovery. It invites a person to confront their own thoughts, emotions, and experiences without the filter of societal roles. It is a journey of peeling away the layers that have accumulated over time, layers of conditioning, of identity shaped by others' perceptions, of desires that belong not to the soul but to the ego. The inward journey often leads to the realization that we are not the sum of our relationships, our roles, or our achievements. We are more than the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. The deeper we go within, the more we begin to sense that our true nature is beyond the confines of individual identity. We are part of something much greater, something timeless, boundless, and interconnected with all life. Through this process, the woman who appears to be without friends may find herself standing at the threshold of a deeper and more intimate relationship, the relationship with her own soul. It is in this space of solitude that she may discover not just who she is, but who she has always been. Without the influence of external connections, she can finally listen to the subtle whispers of her own intuition, hear the voice of her own truth, and understand her place in the grand tapestry of existence. The journey inward is not a destination, but a process, a way of being with oneself in a more authentic and whole way. It is a process that invites deep compassion, acceptance, and love for the self, free from judgment and the need for approval. As one ventures further into this inner world, the distinctions between self and other begin to blur. The separateness that once seemed so real becomes less and less significant, and the interconnectedness of all things becomes more apparent. The concept of friendship, like many aspects of human life, is shaped by a social construct, a set of norms, expectations, and values that are imposed upon us by society. From a young age, we are taught to believe that relationships are not only essential but necessary for our well-being. We are told that we need friends to feel validated, to belong, to experience joy and support. But these beliefs, though deeply ingrained, are not inherent truths. They are simply ideas that have been passed down through generations, often unconsciously. The space for authenticity is a sacred, often overlooked, domain where the true self can emerge unencumbered by the expectations and judgments of the external world. In a society that constantly demands us to conform, to perform roles, and to present curated versions of ourselves, this space is rare and precious. It is a place where we can shed the masks we wear for others and come into direct contact with who we really are beneath the surface. When a woman finds herself without friends, without the usual social circles that pull her in different directions, she may be gifted with the opportunity to experience this space more fully. The absence of external validation, whether in the form of friendship, approval, or expectation, creates a void that allows the true self to breathe and expand. It is in this emptiness, this absence of noise, that she can begin to explore her own thoughts, desires, and passions without the interference of what others might think or say. Authenticity does not arrive when we are constantly interacting with the world through the filter of others' expectations. It is only when we are free from the need to please, to fit in, or to be liked that we can fully understand and embrace our genuine nature. The space for authenticity allows a person to act, speak, and exist in a way that is completely aligned with their internal compass, without the need to conform to a script written by society or other people. In this space, there is no pressure to be anything other than what one is in the moment. There is no judgment, no comparison, no need for approval. It is a pure, raw experience of existence, unfiltered, unrefined, and unmasked. Here, a woman with no friends may find the freedom to explore her own truths, to engage with her passions and interests without the distraction of what others might think of her choices. It is a space where she can be unapologetically herself, unafraid of rejection, because there is no one else to measure herself against. The journey to authenticity requires courage. It asks us to let go of the need for external affirmation, to be willing to stand in our own truth even when it is uncomfortable or unpopular. This space, however, is not one of loneliness or isolation. It is one of deep self-connection. It is a space where a woman free from the weight of social expectations can discover the layers of herself that were previously hidden by the noise of external relationships and roles. In the absence of friendship, she is not empty or lacking. Instead, she is invited to cultivate a relationship with herself that is far richer and more fulfilling than any external relationship could ever be. This space for authenticity allows her to grow into the fullness of her being, embracing all parts of herself, even those that may have been suppressed or overlooked in the past. It is a space where she can feel truly alive, where her essence can unfold in a way that is deeply personal and uniquely her own. The gift of solitude is often misunderstood in a world that constantly values connection, social interaction, and external engagement. Solitude is not the same as loneliness, nor is it a curse to be avoided. In fact, solitude holds a power that is often overlooked, the power to reconnect with oneself in ways that are not possible amidst the distractions and noise of social life. It is a gift that offers clarity, space for self-reflection, and the opportunity to cultivate a deeper understanding of who we truly are, free from the influence of others. In solitude, there is an invitation to step away from the roles we play and the expectations others have of us. It is a space where the external world fades and the internal world comes into sharper focus. Without the constant need to respond to others, to perform, or to please, there is room to hear the whispers of our own thoughts, to feel the stirrings of our own desires, and to witness the silent unfolding of our own being. Solitude offers a kind of quiet that is fertile for personal growth. It is within this quiet that we often find the courage to face aspects of ourselves that we might otherwise avoid. We confront the parts of our personality that are hidden, the fears and insecurities that we may not even be fully aware of. In solitude, there is no escape, no distractions to mask what is uncomfortable or difficult. Yet it is in this discomfort that true transformation can occur as we begin to understand and integrate all parts of ourselves. Far from being a state of emptiness, solitude is a space that is rich with possibility. It is in these moments of aloneness that creativity often flourishes, as we are no longer bound by the ideas or expectations of others. Our mind becomes free to wander, to explore new ideas, and to connect with a deeper source of inspiration. In solitude, we may find that we are capable of creating and thinking in ways we never thought possible when we were constantly surrounded by others. The gift of solitude also allows us to heal. When we are alone, we are able to process emotions, experiences, and traumas without the external pressures to move on or to fit a particular narrative. In the stillness of solitude, we can slowly stitch together the fragments of ourselves that might have been broken, offering us the space to make peace with the past and to move forward with greater wisdom. Moreover, solitude offers the freedom to simply be without having to prove anything to anyone. It is in these moments of being alone that we can fully inhabit ourselves without the constant striving to meet the needs or desires of others. It is a state of pure existence, where we are free to experience life on our own terms. We can rest in the simple truth that this transience does not diminish the beauty or significance of relationships. Rather, it highlights the preciousness of each connection, reminding us that every moment shared with another person is unique and cannot be replicated. The impermanence of human bonds invites us to savor the present, to fully engage in the connections we have while we have them, knowing that they may evolve or dissolve as time moves forward. The intensity and depth of our connections with others are shaped by the awareness that they will not last forever, and it is this very awareness that often makes them more meaningful. Yet it is also in the transience of human connection that we face our vulnerability. The people we hold dear, those with whom we share our deepest selves, may not always remain by our side. They may change, they may leave, or we may part ways. In this impermanence there is an underlying sense of grief and loss even before the connection ends. We are reminded that we cannot control the ebb and flow of relationships, nor can we hold on to them indefinitely. The nature of human connection is that it is constantly evolving, shaped by time, circumstance, and personal growth. The transience of human connection also invites a deeper reflection on our own sense of self. When our relationships shift or fade, it can bring up feelings of isolation, abandonment, or confusion. It challenges us to ask, who are we without the connections that have defined us? If our worth and identity are tied to the people we surround ourselves with, what happens when those bonds break or change? In this way, the transience of human connection forces us to explore the nature of our own independence and the ways in which we find meaning and purpose outside of our relationships with others. Furthermore, the impermanence of human connection underscores the interconnectedness of all things. Just as we cannot hold on to relationships indefinitely, we also cannot hold on to life itself. Every person we meet, every interaction we have, is part of a larger, ever-shifting flow of existence. The connections we make are like threads in a vast web, sometimes intertwined and sometimes distant, but always part of the same intricate pattern. The beauty of these connections lies not in their permanence, but in their fleeting nature, in their ability to leave an imprint on us, even if only for a brief time. In this sense, the transience of human connection offers a paradox. While we are deeply impacted by the relationships that come and go, we are also reminded that we are not defined by them. The shifting nature of our connections challenges us to find stability and peace within ourselves, independent of others. It teaches us to cultivate resilience in the face of change and loss, to understand that while relationships may end, they are not the source of our worth or identity. In embracing the transience of human connection, we learn to live more fully in the moment, to cherish the bonds we share while they exist, and to release them with grace when they inevitably change or fade. The need for external validation is an intrinsic part of the human experience, deeply woven into the fabric of our social existence. From the moment we are born, we are taught to look outside of ourselves for approval, for recognition, and for confirmation of our worth. This external validation comes in many forms: the praise of parents, the approval of peers, the admiration of strangers, or the acceptance of a social group. It shapes the way we see ourselves and often dictates how we behave, what we value, and how we define success. We live in a society where external validation is heavily emphasized. Social media platforms, for example, provide constant feedback loops through likes, comments, and shares, creating an environment where our sense of self-worth becomes increasingly tethered to the reactions of others. We are conditioned to measure our value by how others perceive us, often equating our self-worth with external markers of success, beauty, intelligence, or popularity. These external affirmations become a reflection of our identity, influencing how we carry ourselves and what we believe about our own abilities and potential. However, the need for external validation can become a double-edged sword. On one hand, it offers a sense of belonging, a sense of being seen and appreciated in a world that often feels isolating. In the early stages of life, seeking approval from others is a necessary part of our development. It helps us navigate the complexities of human relationships, build trust, and understand how to interact with the world around us. It reinforces our need for connection, and it is through these external affirmations that we learn the social norms and behaviors that allow us to function within society. Yet, as we grow older, the reliance on external validation can become limiting. When we look to others to define who we are, we become disconnected from our inner truth. Our decisions, actions, and values may begin to be shaped less by our authentic desires and more by the need to be accepted, to be liked, or to fit in. In this pursuit of approval, we may suppress parts of ourselves that do not conform to societal expectations. We become performers, constantly adjusting our behavior to match the preferences and judgments of others, leaving behind the richness of our true selves. The false self is a construct that we create over time, often without conscious awareness, as a response to the demands, expectations, and judgments of the world around us. It is a mask we wear to navigate the complexities of social life, designed to meet the needs of others and to conform to societal norms. This false self is not who we truly are, but rather a version of ourselves that is shaped by the roles we are expected to play, the values we are taught to adopt, and the identities we are encouraged to perform. It is an identity built on external influences, a performance crafted to fit into a world that constantly asks us to prove our worth. At its core, the false self is driven by the need for acceptance and validation. From a young age, we begin to mold ourselves into shapes that fit the expectations of those around us, parents, teachers, peers, and society at large. We internalize the messages we receive from these external sources, adopting behaviors, beliefs, and patterns that align with what is considered desirable, acceptable, or successful. The false self is a survival mechanism, a way of adapting to the world in order to gain love, security, and approval. It serves as a protective shield, hiding the more vulnerable, authentic parts of ourselves that might be rejected, misunderstood, or dismissed. The false self is often a response to the fear of rejection or failure. We fear that if we show who we truly are, we may not be loved or accepted. We fear that if we reveal our true desires, flaws, or emotions, others will find us lacking, unworthy, or unimportant. So we hide behind the false self, projecting an image of who we think others want us to be. We become skilled at adapting our personality, appearance, and behavior to fit different situations, switching between roles depending on the context. In doing so, we lose touch with the essence of who we are as we become more concerned with meeting external expectations than with staying true to ourselves. The false self is not inherently malicious, it is simply a response to the pressures and constraints of the world. However, over time, the disconnection from our authentic self can become deeply damaging. We may begin to feel disconnected from ourselves, lost in a maze of roles and identities that feel increasingly alien. The false self is a facade, a constructed identity that offers no lasting sense of fulfillment or peace. While it may garner approval and acceptance from others, it never leads to the deep sense of inner satisfaction that comes from being true to oneself. Living from the false self can create a sense of constant tension and inner conflict. The more we invest in the false self, the more we disconnect from our true desires, needs, and values. We may start to feel exhausted by the effort required to maintain this image, as it demands that we continually perform, please, and conform. We may even begin to question who we are as the person we project to the world becomes increasingly disconnected from the person we feel ourselves to be internally. This dissonance can lead to feelings of emptiness, confusion, and even a profound sense of loneliness as we struggle to reconcile our external identity with our internal truth. The false self also keeps us trapped in the need for external validation. Because it is built on the expectations of others, it is always seeking approval, recognition, and acceptance from outside sources. This dependence on external feedback can make us fragile, as our sense of worth becomes contingent upon how others perceive us. We become vulnerable to the whims of others' judgments, constantly adjusting ourselves to gain approval or avoid criticism. This constant striving to meet others' standards can lead to a loss of self-direction, as we become more focused on how we are seen than on how we truly feel or what we genuinely want. Breaking free from the false self requires a courageous journey inward. It involves shedding the layers of conditioning, judgment, and expectation that have accumulated over the years. To uncover our true self, We must confront the fears and insecurities that have kept us in the grip of the false self, and allow ourselves to embrace the vulnerability that comes with authenticity. This process is not easy, and it often involves facing uncomfortable truths about who we are and what we truly want. It requires us to let go of the need for external approval and to trust that our worth is not dependent on how others see us, but on our inherent being. In order to reclaim our authentic self, we must cultivate self-awareness and self-acceptance. We must learn to recognize when we are slipping into the false self, when we are performing for others or hiding our true feelings. We must give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to express our emotions honestly, and to embrace the parts of ourselves that we have hidden or suppressed. By reconnecting with our true self, we can begin to live a life that is more aligned with our deepest values, desires, and aspirations, free from the constraints of the false self. In the end, detachment is not about withdrawing from life or rejecting love and connection, but about engaging with the world without becoming bound to its transient nature. It's the art of experiencing fully while maintaining